when I look at it, I didn't actually look back at what my wants were and what I expected and what I needed. And my mistake was that I didn't communicate that. Had I communicated that, maybe we wouldn't have got married. And maybe we would have found other people, I don't know. But I just know that my lack of communication preceded a relationship breakdown of some sort. And I hold my hands up to that. Hence why this segment is called Still Figuring It Out.
Yeah.
Because we are literally still figuring it out. Welcome back to Still Figuring It Out. I am Rachel and my co-host.
I'm Dion.
Nice to have you here. So today's topic, the mistakes that people make during marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, we're not talking just about to end a marriage, the mistakes. We're talking about marriage in its entirety. So leading up to marriage, during the marriage, after the marriage, per se?
Yeah.
I'd say, definitely. Do you want to start?
So like straight away, what I wanted to say was something that I can be accountable for, but in essence, it wasn't really my fault.
Okay.
Right? So that's not really me being truly accountable, because I'm still trying to distance myself probably from some of my mistakes. I don't think that I was, as much as I thought I was, I don't think I was prepared enough to make the right choice to be married. I think that because I got married at 26.
Okay.
And at the time, you feel like you
know everything.
You know everything. You're an adult. You know, you're paying your rent, your mortgage, or what have you. You guys have been together for a long time. You're deep in this thing. Now, fast forward 14 years, there's so much more that I know about myself, and now and more that I know about life than I did at 26 years old. Like oftentimes, I battle with, should I even have done it?
Oh, definitely.
But at the same time, it's like I've gained so much knowledge and experience from being in it that now going forward, I can be an even better wife, right? Because I think for me, I think I had a little bit of a halo syndrome, about myself, because I never did anything wrong. And, I did what I was supposed to do as a wife, and yada, 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 yada. Almost textbook. That's how I perceived myself. That's how other people perceived me. However, actually within that relationship, clearly there were some things that I wasn't doing, or maybe certain behaviours that I was displaying that probably didn't aid to the continuation of the marriage. Now, that's not me saying that, what happened.
You're accountable for that.
Right. For the reason why my marriage ended, that's very much on the other person. But I think it's important that you are able to look at yourself in the mirror and maybe see some of either your shortcomings or just some of the things that you could have essentially,
Compromised on,
maybe done a little bit better. And I'm going to be honest, it's taken me a long time to get to that point. And what I've realized is that through meeting other people and then picking up things about you that you're not consciously aware of.
Yeah.
And you and I, we have so many conversations. Like, if I need to be held accountable, if there's a part of me that's like, I'm not sure, I will voice note Rachel, call Rachel and be like, Rachel, what do you think? And I'm so blessed to have friends like Rachel in my life, because they won't pussyfoot around me. They won't they won't appease me. You know, just before we started filming, I got little drapes to my neck. Do you know what I mean? Because I said to her, I was like, Rach, you know, I'm accountable, aren't I, babe? She's like, not all the time. You know what I mean? But yes, I think, let me think of something that I probably could have done better. I think when it got to the point where my ex-husband was saying, this is what I need, yeah? But now at this point, where the trust has been brutalized to the point of no return, as far as I was concerned at the time, I didn't feel like I owed him anything.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I owed him any more than what I'd already given, because at that point I'd given you everything. I'd given you my undying loyalty. You know, I was integral. You know, I didn't even see men, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they didn't exist.
They didn't exist.
No.
You know, I was also very mindful about maintaining, you know, levels of respect. So I didn't acquire any new male friends. You know, whoever was a friend beforehand,
they stayed.
They stayed.
And then they knew their position.
And they knew their position, they knew their boundaries, all that kind of stuff. Now, in hindsight, what he was asking me for wasn't difficult for me to do, but I just outrightly was just like,
You refused.
I'm just not doing it. And it was a form of retaliation, in the form of punishment. Now, in hindsight, had I done the thing that he asked me to do on a regular basis, could things have changed? I don't know that now.
Yeah, of course. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
It's a wonderful thing, you know. But yeah, that's probably one of the main things I can think of. I mean, what about you?
For me, I think one of my mistakes was not communicating as well as I could have about my expectations of marriage. So my husband was born in a different culture to me. And his culture was every day he comes in or he's in the house, like he'll cook or prepare and then he's out. And then maybe 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, he comes back in. Now for me, I didn't see that as acceptable.
Right.
So I've been at work all day. I haven't seen you. I then come in, I eat my dinner and expect some downtime with you and the children, and you're ready to go out the door.
Whereas he's feeling like,
I've been in the house.
I've been in my house. I've done my bit.
I've done my bit. So it's my turn now. And for me, I don't think I communicated that I needed time. I needed attention. And I didn't appreciate that he needed the time outside of the house. But I think when I look at it, had we communicated that, would it have changed the scenario for the marriage breakdown? No. So for me, it was a mistake that I won't make again.
Yeah.
But it's, as you said, it will make me a better wife when I get to that position.
Yeah.
Because I always used to sit and think to myself, after marriage, would I marry again? And when I look at it from a female's perspective, more often than not, marriage is for a woman. It is the woman that wants to get married. A man will normally tell you he only got married because you wanted it. When you hear women speak about marriage, you hear it's my wedding day, not our, but my. And for me, when I look back at my wedding day, my husband at the time played an integral part in the wedding. He picked his men's suits. He played a really great part in it. But when I think about it in its entirety, would I have done it again? Looking back in hindsight, I wouldn't have. And as much as I enjoyed the day somewhat,
Yeah.
it wasn't what I wanted in its entirety.
Yeah.
And I think I was in a position where, that biological clock starts ticking and you want to have these milestones at a particular age. Mm-hmm. And I just felt that I was at that age where I should have been married. I've have 2 children. You get to that point. And then when I look at it, I didn't actually look back at what my wants were and what I expected and what I needed. And my mistake was that I didn't communicate that. Had I communicated that, maybe we wouldn't have got married. And maybe we would have found other people, I don't know. But I just know that my lack of communication preceded a relationship breakdown of some sort. And I hold my hands up to that.
Why do you think there was a lack of communication on your part? Is it that you just didn't know how to, or?
In saying that, I did communicate in relation to, are you not going to spend time? But what it would be is, I was already frustrated. Because I'd be like, oh, you're going out again? Yeah. So I'm expecting you at some point to figure out that you want to spend time with me.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? You're not even doing that. You're not perceiving that of your own accord. So I was already frustrated. So when I'm saying it, I'm queen of tude. I'm not even attitude, I'm big tude. So, it's like so what, you going out again, yeah? Scene. Say nothing, innit? So, I've already got attitude.
Yeah.
Then, what happens after that, innit? You want to come in at 1 o'clock in the morning, start tap, tap, tap. Brother.
No.
I turn my back. Yeah? Okay. So, you just know already, brother, you don't want to spend time with me, but now you just want to come touch and feel up. Brother, I beg. So for me, I think that by the time I'd gotten to that point of wanting to communicate the way that we needed to, it's already too late.
Yeah.
It was already too late.
And I guess for men as well, they show their love
differently
and affection through the act of sex.
You think so?
I think so. A lot of the time, a lot of men do kind of, because I guess for him, he's probably thinking, I've been in the house all day, I've cooked, I've tidied up, I'm now going to have my time. And now, I'm not saying that that's good enough. I'm not saying that at all. But maybe in his mind, he kind of felt like, well, I've done my act of service. Mm-hmm. I'm now having my own quality time. And now I'm going to have my quality time / physical touch time with you.
But you're coming at 1 o'clock in the morning and I've got work. I'm tired. I've been at work all day. I come home. When you've gone through the door, I'm dealing with the children. So I'm now tired. So you want to wake me out of my sleep to gratify yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired. And the thing is, I'll say it quite openly, I'm quite a sexual person.
Yeah.
So if you'd spent time with me, then more often than not, it would have been an everyday occurrence.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Maybe twice a day even. Do you get what I mean? But it's just about that there was no consideration for my needs because your love language was acts of service. You felt that was significant enough, whereas mine wasn't. Mine is time, quality time.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Mine is quality time. Mine is affection. Mine is just that give and take, and that's not what I was getting. And when I was saying, so are we going to do something? What about us? Time? Oh, don't worry about that. Okay, cool. Cool. So by the time I'd gotten to pinnacle point, there was already messages in your phone. There was already women ringing the house. You was already doing these things. Yeah. So for me, my mistake was I didn't communicate it early enough in a relationship.
Yeah.
So we didn't even get to that point. Do you get what I mean? Mm-hmm. And not to say that caused him to go and cheat, but had I communicated before, you might have been able to tell me, you know what, B, I can't even do that, That's not what I want.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely see that as a mistake.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back to I think my lack of probably personal boundaries in terms of what I have allowed. And this is the thing, because it's like, in an ideal world, right, we would all know what our, I didn't know about attachment styles until my 30s.
Yes.
Right? I didn't know about you know, how...
What is an attachment style for some of our listeners?
Okay, so for example,
watchers.
if you have a secure attachment style, you there's no kind of like codependency. You're almost very okay with being by yourself. Being with somebody, there's no anxiousness. There's no necessary clinginess. It's very kind of like you are secure. And this kind of, I mean, the attachment styles go back to, what's his name? Is it John
Skinner?
Is it Skinner?
Yeah, operant conditioning.
Yeah. So he wrote a book about attachment styles for babies, and then they kind of developed it for adults because they saw that the behaviours kind of reflected the same.
Was it Bowlby?
But it was Bowlby.
Yeah. See the psychology coming out here.
Yeah. So for me, I think I'd always felt like, when I'm looking back in hindsight, at the time, if I knew what attachment styles were, I would have thought I had a secure attachment style. No, I didn't. No. I was anxiously attached because
you was waiting for something to happen.
Always. Yeah. And, you know, and realising that, you know, again, in hindsight, I was constantly anxious. You know, just off air, I was talking about, you know, people call me CIA, MI5, KGB, all that
Columbo's
kind of stuff.
mama.
Yeah, right? Because I was always expecting, you know, something to happen or something to come up. Now, also now, what I understand about energy and intention is that if I have set it in my mind that is going to happen, I'm almost manifesting,
of course,
that into my relationship anyway. So, you know.
Do you not think you're between a rock and a hard place, though?
Absolutely.
Because if you're not prepared for it, it does happen, it causes devastation. And then you're not able to process it in the manner that you might be able to. But if you do think about it and it does happen, you're like, oh, well, see that.
I already knew. But then I think spending nearly 20 years of my life like that, now I've realised that isn't a space that I want to operate in. I think, and again, like we were kind of talking about off air, when you don't know, you don't know. Yeah. And you should be living your life in that type of peace, as opposed to always on high alert. Like I remember, you know, just little things like if we were ever going out, I'd be getting ready and I'd be highly anxious about, am I going to see one of? And more often than not, when I had that thought, we would actually see one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, I would still make a point of having a good time, but I was constantly living in a highly anxious state. And a highly anxious state means there's cortisol pumping through my system, you know, all the time. A notification goes off on the phone at 1:00 in the morning. It could just be your bedroom. Yeah. But straight away, my mind's like,
who's that? Why are they messaging at that time?
Right.
Why would your friends message me at you at that time?
And, you know, and then those little kind of quips, again, will tend to then cause problems in the relationship, you know. So I think for me...
So do you think you should have cut it off earlier, knowing that that's what you was feeling?
Yeah, because, again, it's like in hindsight, those issues I was experiencing before I even got married. So, but I think through learnt behaviour, through expectation, I think through conditioning that this is just what men do, and better the devil you know. Then on top of, then on top of, you know, this was a natural progression, and right now, when I look around, like this was my reality at the time.
Yeah,
I look around. You're the best out of the bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't see anyone else, and whether it be down to my own family members, father, grandfather, uncles, everybody does this, right? So, and in terms of my peer group, everyone's on the same thing.
Do you think it's a cultural aspect, or do you think it is a genetic aspect? Because there are conversations... And I know we're meant to be talking about mistakes during marriage. And accountability. But when you go back to genetics and tradition, that's always been the case. When you look at animals, they don't have one mate.
Yeah.
So is it a nature-nurture aspect that then creates those scenarios that we shouldn't allow? Is it against our nature? Have we been conditioned to not accept that when actually it's a natural instinct?
Do you know what? I think particularly with marriage, because marriage obviously was more of a business type of arrangement.
It's a contractual.
It's a contract, yeah.
What did they call it the other day? It's not contractual. I'm going to think of the word.
But yeah, so like in terms of transactional, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then when you look at certain cultures spanning across the globe, there was a point in time where women had multiple partners as well.
Yeah.
I
forget that part. I noticed that's always left out of
history. Yeah. So there is definitely something in that. I know for me personally, I'm a very monogamous person. So again, it never really ever crossed my mind to step out of my marriage.
Okay, stick a
even
pin.
In retaliation.
Can I ask the question? You say you're a very monogamous person. Is that based upon what society set out for you? Or is that because that's your innate feeling?
Good question,
Because
I think it's probably,
if you weren't judged by it.
If I wasn't judged by it.
If you had a clean slate, nobody in society would judge you for having more than one partner as a woman. Would you still be very monogamous?
I think so. I don't, because I can only judge myself based on how I was within my marriage, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say it's only when my marriage was far into its breaking down or broken down stage where I allowed my eyes to be open.
Okay.
And whilst I didn't actually do anything or step out, I was having dialogue with different people, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And that was just more a case of me, I guess, feeling that I'm still desirable. Because when you've been with someone for such a long time, and, I'd go out with friends and stuff, not really get approached as much as they did. And then when I would speak to men, they'd kind of be like, you look like a wife.
Okay.
Like, it's literally like you have wife tattooed on your forehead. And that was a lot of the feedback I kind of got. I think, based on what happened within my marriage, probably not. Because I probably would have retaliated by stepping out and cheating if I knew that I wouldn't be judged for it.
Okay.
But you're right, it was the fear of the judgment. It was the fear of the judgment. It was the fear of, because, when men step out, but as soon as a wife steps out, whore of Babylon, Jezebel.
Mm-hmm. And when a man steps out, but you must forgive him because man is man. Mm-hmm. And this is why I look at some of the mistakes that I made throughout my marriage. When I look at, was I too zealous in regards to pushing him into... I say I was motivating, come on, like step up the education, step up the work ethic, when actually he might have been quite comfortable and he might have seen me as pushy and overbearing. Do you get what I mean? So I think my expectation was for somebody, for iron to meet iron and to be equally yoked, when actually we weren't equally yoked. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't done enough research and enough background searching to know that we weren't.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And it was only as we were already in the marriage, because as much as you know somebody in a relationship, you see the moment you get married,
yes,
it comes like there's a whole different restriction line that gets pulled out, And literally, when I think about my aspirations for the marriage and his, they were totally different. And I don't know why we hadn't communicated that. And that was my mistake. That was my mistake. But again, it was that judgment. It was, well, now you're a wife. You need to be seen to be. You need to do. You need to... And the cooking, the cleaning, the washing, everything, he would still do, but I would do.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking to yourself, okay, so A woman's wife's responsibility is set out. What is the man's responsibility?
Yeah.
He's supposed to take care. He's supposed to be. And again, who set that remit? Now, traditionally, men would take care. They would go out, they would hunt, they would feed the family.
Yeah.
The women would take care of the children, take care of the home. We are now in a whole different generation now where women have to work and still take care of the home. Where is the balance?
And this is the thing. I think you have to be, I think, in a very fortunate... luckily, I had that balance.
Yeah.
You know, I did have that balance because... But for me, it was also very important. I don't know if it's coming from a Jamaican background, but I couldn't be in a relationship with someone that doesn't know how to cook, that doesn't know how to keep a home, that isn't domesticated. You know, like I always give my ex-husband props in the sense of, like, he makes better curry goat than I do.
Hey.
Yeah? Do you know what I mean? He can fry chicken. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And for me, it was like, I have to pick somebody who I know that worst case scenario, when we have children, my children will be okay.
They'll be fed.
They'll be
taken care of.
They'll be taken. You know what I mean? They'll be taken care of.
Even if it's a salt fish and baked beans.
Right. Do you get what I'm saying? But you need to be able to have those basic kind of skills. Like I and especially even now that I'm in my 40s, I can't pick up a man or take on somebody who is unwilling to learn.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, those that's very much going to be one of my non-negotiables because even with men that I've dated, all very self-sufficient.
Yeah.
You know, they live by themselves, they cook, they clean, everything as well.
I will say that a lot of the men who are self-sufficient, a lot of it comes from mummy trauma though.
Okay.
I will say this because a lot of them, the reason they can cook, they can clean, they can wash, they can do the things they do, because the adage behind it is, "Me nah make no woman take you for idiot. I'm not going to let no woman take you for an idiot. I'm not going to let no woman take you for granted. No woman can't call you an idiot, can't call you nasty." It's not because she's trained the child for his own self-sufficiency, and it's good to help, and it's good to be able to be a good husband.
Such a good point. That's such a good point.
And it worries me so much so with my own children that I don't push those things on them, but I want them to want to learn.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? I don't want it to be, I've forced you to learn how to cook, clean, and I did that because I want you to know how it is to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And to be able to assist your partner should the time be needed.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Not because no woman now gonna take you for idiot.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So I want it to be a positive experience and teach you along the way, rather than force it upon you.
Yeah.
So that for me was one of the things I've always heard from the men in our families, from the men that I know, from school friends, college friends, from everywhere. It's always been, well, I can cook, I can clean, I can do this because my mum taught me. And why did she teach you? Because no woman can't take me for idiot.
Do you know what? We need to have a conversation about the mother wound.
Yeah, the mother wound is a very, very deep wound. And trust me, I will hold my hands up accountable. I might be guilty of causing some mother wounds on my own children in regards to some of the things I say. And I'm now very, very conscious of when I'm speaking to them, what I'm saying, how I'm saying it. Because I cannot raise another set of generation of men that are grown through struggle and cannot communicate and have healthy relationships. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I refuse. I want my children to be able to, and my eldest son is 26 this year, I want him to be able to communicate his needs and wants without feeling that society has structured him to be a man that can't communicate.
Yes.
And
100%.
And I think me, even entering my marriage, another mistake I made was not listening on that premise. The same like you in regards to what you asked for. But I think it's my expectation of what a man should be.
Yes.
So when you didn't do that, I'm just looking at you like, oh, please. You're less than.
Yeah.
When actually, You might want to learn, but because of my attitude towards it, my bad attitude towards it, my bigitude towards it, you know, it's just that unleashing of the ability to feel vulnerable. And I watched something the other day and it was really, really enlightening. And the man said that a woman gets one chance with a man to disrupt his vulnerability. Just one. After you disrupt that vulnerability, you'll never get the same man again.
Interesting.
It was very, very interesting. Because during my marriage, I then, when I watched it, I looked back at my marriage, I looked back at my relationships, and I looked back and I thought, did I damage somebody's vulnerability? Did I, at some stage, dismiss your vulnerability?
I think we're probably all guilty of that at some stage, even if you're unconsciously aware of it. I think even in this space of not being a married woman, there may have been times where I've unconsciously done that. As much as I try and do everything consciously and with intention, again, it's perceptions, and it's also people's own wounds, and you know, even and down to things that they project out of themselves. So you might feel like something I've done has been very dismissive, but I might have just had my boundaries up. Yeah. But that still could have attacked your vulnerability though.
And then we still have to be accountable, because even though we've got our boundaries up and our walls up to protect ourselves for defense, we have to be accountable that we've hurt somebody. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? And I think there are a lot of, I know some people are going to hate me for this one, but there are a lot of women that enable other women, oh, baby, you was just protecting yourself. Rather than say, actually,
you could have done this a better way.
You could have done this a better way. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So I think we as women need to hold each other accountable a lot more
than we currently do.
The enabling, even just yesterday, I watched a woman, it was horrifying. I watched a video of a woman kill her husband because he'd slept with her sister and impregnated her sister.
You watched the video of her killing him?
Yeah. They posted the video.
Wow.
I didn't know it was possible. I felt sick. And somebody sent it to me. And I thought to myself, well, when you sent it to me, did you know how I would react? Did you know what my response would be to the video? But that was a whole nother argument. But for me, it was that her ego allowed her to get that angry
that she would,
but your husband was sleeping with your sister. You didn't stab your sister, you stabbed your husband. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So there's two people that are accountable to you, and neither of them were accountable, but you chased the husband. What was your accountability in this situation? Now, somebody has videoed this. They're not shouting.
For real? That's the point.
Somebody's video, they're not shouting, they're not calling the police, they're not trying to stop her, they're not trying to drive up to her. So there is a level of accountability somewhere that somebody did not take. Somebody enabled that situation. Do you understand? Yeah. And for me, I'm just like, accountability needs to be a greater thing in our society. But again, we veer off the topic.
We have, but it's still on the topic of accountability. And at the same time, I feel like the women and accountability, we have many a discussion to have about that. And again, what I love about these discussions is the fact that
they all kind of intertwine, don't they?
They intertwine, and you know, it makes you relook at yourself again. Yeah. You know, and the purpose of, you know, Love Laid Bare in its entirety is for you to look at yourself. It's through these discussions where there might be a little light bulb moment. You're like, oh my God, I do that. I've done that. Yeah. Have I done that? Okay, how can I now correct this? You know, how can I change for, you know, the better?
But hence why this segment is called Still Figuring It Out.
Yeah.
Because we are literally still figuring it out. And the thing is, at the age of 26, I wouldn't have said I was wrong for not communicating. At the age of nearly 46, I'm saying, yes, I was wrong. And I know he's sitting there rubbing his hands together right now. I said, she did wrong. But at least I learned at some stage.
Exactly, that's it.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And it is me still figuring it out. And I'm happy that I'm trying.
Yeah. So, question for you then. When you move into another long-term partnership or marriage, what are some of the things that you will now do differently that you didn't do in your first marriage?
Expectations. So what's my perception of an expectation of that person that I'm with, I won't project onto them. Because just because I want that, it's about me communicating. So obviously projection, expectations are my two key things I would do differently. So especially about communicating my needs.
Yeah.
I'd also obviously ensure to listen more.
Yeah.
And not just listen, but actually understand. So sometimes we listen and we make a perception of something we've heard.
Yeah.
We make an assumption about what we've heard and we process it with our own experiences.
Yeah.
We don't ever say, more often than not, what did you mean by that?
Yeah.
And what I would hope for, and not expect, but what I'd hope for is somebody to be patient enough with me to say, this is what I mean by that. Not, what do you mean you don't understand what I said? I spoke English. I'm not trying to... I'm not trying to be difficult, but I need to understand it in the context of their experience rather than my own, because I can put my own slant on things because of what I've been through.
Yeah.
And think that it looks like that when actually it looked like that. So it's about me asking those questions.
Yeah.
And me listening to understand and asking the questions. And please be patient with me because, you know, I do ask a lot of questions. What would you do?
I think now I'm in a different space. So, you know, in terms of like my trust issues, my hypervigilance, I would definitely approach a new marriage where that is quite like, where that is so quiet. Because it used to be up here, right? And I think with that allows a space of genuine trust. And I think another thing as well, I think one thing that, again, that I have learned through now being able to form friendships with men, like, you know, genuine good friendships.
But some men will tell you that no such things exist. But anyway, go on.
Some men will say that, but then some men won't. I think it depends on the individual, to be honest, because I have some amazing
and
platonic.
Maturity.
Yeah, I have some amazing platonic friendships with people who actively do the work. And I think that's why we kind of very much gel and get on, because they're very active in their self-awareness and their self-development and stuff like that. And I think, you know, what you were saying earlier is, you know, providing a space for a man to be vulnerable.
Yes. And not being dismissive
and
with
not
it.
being dismissive of it. And, you know, and when a man approaches you with that vulnerability, forget what happened yesterday or last month.
Or last year.
Or last year.
Or 1963.
Right.
Before he was born.
Just provide him with that space where he can be vulnerable and I can listen to understand, you know. And I think it's also about me quieting my own thoughts, because one thing that my ex-husband used to say to me is, you always think you know what I'm going to say or what I'm thinking, and it pisses me off. Now, in my mind, I'd be like, but I already know what you're going to say. Do you know what I mean? I'd have that kind
because you've processed it. The heuristic in your brain, the shortcut in your brain has tried to make sense of what this conversation is taking place.
And I don't actually want to hear what you have to say because I already know it's going to be nonsense. Now, in hindsight, I will give you that space and let's figure some things out together. Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I will be taking forward for the next time. So, yeah.
So wrapping up, still figuring it out.
Still figuring it out.
the mistakes in marriage. Let's hope that you were able to take something away from today's episode in relation to some of the mistakes that we've made and try not to make those, as well as using it to evolve and to grow from a place where you may be to a place where you need to be. But this is me signing out.
So guys, yes, thank you for tuning in to another episode. Remember, subscribe on YouTube. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any podcast streaming platform. So please follow us on the socials at Lovely Bear. And it's a wrap. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.